Welcome back to another episode of the What We're Watching podcast. I'm Megan.
And I'm Jeni, and today we're talking about Coraline.
Another spooky episode.
This one is our spookiest one, I feel like.
Yes, we can have one a year.
Is this
like
Jennifer's
last year
body?
we had Jennifer's body? Yes, I think so. Also, is this our first animated movie?
Yes. Wait,
I think
it
is.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Well, this was requested by one of you a really long time ago. And so we've had it in our back pocket that we were going to do it for Halloween. And then we got even more requests. So here we are.
I gotta be honest.
You hate it. I knew this. No. The entire time I was watching the movie, I was like, Megan hates this movie, I bet. I bet she's going to hate this movie.
I didn't hate it. However, the world of Coraline and Nightmare Before Christmas is just a world that I never wished to enter and that I will leave alone going forward.
Unless you have to for this podcast.
Unless I have to for this podcast, yes. Because I trust you guys. If you tell me that a movie is good and you like it and you want me to watch it, I will do it.
Was this your first time?
This was my first time watching it, yes.
Okay.
I had a roller coaster of emotions, okay? At the beginning, I was like, oh no, this is actually going to be scary. Like when she gets the button-eyed doll, I was like, oh no. And then I looked it up and the movie is classified as a horror, okay? So I was like, oh no, I'm not equipped. I, at that moment, almost texted you and was like, I'm not doing this, I can't. But it was not that scary. I did watch it on my laptop with subtitles, which I'm sure helped.
Something's scarier, though, when you watch something by yourself versus watching it with your partner.
That's true. Brian was not interested in this one, unfortunately.
Okay.
So I was left to my own devices. I will say, at the beginning, my interest level and my expectations were at the floor. And I did actually get really invested in the story throughout, though. I really wanted to know what happened.
Okay, love that.
So we turned a corner. You like this movie, yes?
Oh, love.
Okay, yes.
But I have a strong personal history with it, so we can talk about that in a little bit.
Oh, okay, good. I want to hear that.
It's a nostalgic thing for me, for sure.
Okay. I feel like I need to hear the story because imagining Coraline as normally we talk about nostalgic as like warm, fuzzy nostalgic, and this is not that.
Oh, I can go ahead and dive in and tell you everything.
Let's do it.
Okay, so this is based on a book that came out in 2002, and it's by Neil Gaiman. You know who that is?
Wait, I love Neil Gaiman.
Yes.
Okay.
American Gods. What is that Sandman show? I mean, he's got so many books and things. So
have you read the book The Graveyard Boy?
Yes. Well, I started reading it. I never finished it, but I want to.
Okay, I actually love that book.
Okay, I think you would love Coraline the book.
Okay.
Maybe you wouldn't after watching this, but yes. So he wrote Coraline the book, and maybe you recognize the cover, actually, if you look it up, because the cover is like very kind of creepy, but not stop motion creepy, kind of a different kind of creepy. My aunt is a teacher, and she used to read Coraline to her kids every October, to her like 3rd and 4th graders. It's a kid's book, and it's very short.
Okay.
And she was like, you have to read this book. This is what I teach my kids. And I was probably about the same age as them. Mm-hmm. So she gave me a copy of the book and I read it and I was obsessed with it. I've read it multiple times, I think. And then in 2009, when this movie came out, or at least when it came out on DVD, my aunt bought it. And then we went to her house and we watched it with my cousins. And it was so fun. And we watched it in 3D with our 3D little like paper glasses.
Aww.
So I love Coraline. I think it's great.
You have a spooky fam.
My aunt is spooky. Anyone who's listening to this who knows her will agree. And probably she would too.
That's fun. That's fun. That's like a fun way to get into it as a kid too.
Yeah. Something about the book that I will say is it's way scarier to me, or at least it was as a kid, than this movie.
Mm.
For example, it's more realistic. Like, instead of that metal, scary hand severed that's like walking on the ground, it's a real hand like thing from the Addams Family.
Yeah.
Creepy.
Creepy.
And like the characters aren't so much caricatures and like fake.
Right. They look very unrealistic because of the stop motion and like the animation style.
Yeah, like Mr. Babinski is just an old man who lives upstairs.
That makes it a lot worse.
And there are some drawings and stuff. So yeah, to me, it's just way creepier, but...
Oh, hell no. I'm looking at the cover of this book.
It's scary, right?
Hell no.
Honestly, I should read it again. It's really
But
good.
I love Neil Gaiman, so maybe I would like it.
I think you would, because it's just well written, and my aunt also loves the Graveyard book.
Oh, the Graveyard book, that's what it's called. The Graveyard book. Okay.
She tried to get me to read that one afterwards, and when I started reading it, I felt like they were the same vibe.
Okay, so maybe I would like it. That is a good spooky season book. Would recommend the audio book version of that as well if you guys also like Neil Gaiman and like the book Coraline, because he reads it.
Oh my gosh.
Neil Gaiman does, and he has a great voice.
I love that. I took his masterclass too.
Me too, that's why I read it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so fun.
Okay, so the logline, first of all, thank you for sharing that.
You said that to me like I just shared something really brave. Thank you for sharing that you actually like Coraline.
Well, I like it.
I'm just kidding.
Thank you for going out on a limb here, okay? Thank you for being vulnerable with your weird taste.
I do feel like this happens to us a lot, where with the scary stuff, with the scary or like kind of creepy stuff, I'm like, oh my gosh, Megan, I love this thing. You'll love it too. And then you're like, oh my gosh, this is so weird.
Like Jennifer's Body.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I love you for all of our differences. This is good. It's good that we're different.
Jennifer's Body, I didn't know would scare you. This one I knew would scare you.
Jennifer's Body is like watching through the cracks of my fingers. Actually, this movie from the very beginning was giving Us. That's what actually freaked me out about it.
Really?
Because
I haven't seen it.
Oh, okay.
But I know the concept.
Spoil anything. Okay. There is like an alternate family that like looks a little bit different from the original family.
Yes.
And the like concept of the other mother and you like know something is up and like someone's watching the other one was kind of similar at the beginning. So I was like, oh no, I'm not mentally equipped for this. And then it ended up actually being a much cuter story than I thought it would be. It did not go that dark.
I could see how you would be freaked out though. I also don't like scary movies.
Yeah.
My tolerance is low, but like there are some things that are creepy that I'm into for some reason.
Yeah.
And then some that like the reverse thing happened. Like I was obsessed with The Nightmare Before Christmas as a kid.
You were?
And as a teenager, yes, I was obsessed. Now I can't really watch it because the doctor guy freaks me out with the like duck lips. I don't know why, but he scares me and I kind of don't watch it anymore. But I still like it. But I'm not obsessed. I think I've become more of a baby over time.
Oh, I definitely have. I relate to that. Okay, so the logline for Coraline is, while exploring her new home, a girl named Coraline discovers a secret door behind which lies an alternate world that closely mirrors her own, but in many ways is better. She rejoices in her discovery until Other Mother and the rest of her parallel family try to keep her there forever. Coraline must use all her resources and bravery to make it back to her own family and life.
I just love the story of this. I love the concept. I love how brave she has to be. I just love Coraline.
I will say I loved Coraline, the character, a lot.
Yeah.
I thought she was so endearing, and I just wanted her to, like, get whatever she wanted.
Do you know what I love? I love when a kid's movie takes kids seriously. I'm sure I've said this before, but, like, in this movie, they're not trying to soften things or to make it less scary for kids. They're like, the kids can handle it. I'm not saying I would let my kids watch it. But
he's like, my kids on the other hand.
I can have a nuanced opinion. I like it when they take kids seriously. Maybe my kids personally wouldn't be able to watch it until they're a little older, but
yeah, totally fair.
My non-existent kids.
One day.
So this is a stop-motion fantasy horror film that came out in 2009, and it was written and directed by Henry Selick, who did The Nightmare Before Christmas, which is why we keep mentioning that, and James and the Giant Peach, which is another creepy, scary one. Have you seen that one? Don't watch it.
Okay.
You won't like it.
Okay.
But I remember liking that one as a kid too, but it did scare me. I think I liked things that scared me just a little bit. The idea for this book came to be because Gaiman mistyped Coraline and thought it was an interesting name. So he decided to see where he could take it.
Cool. That's so funny because I feel like Coraline is so fitting for the story. Like the name Coraline being the name of the story and the name of the girl.
Yeah. I wonder if anyone names their kids Coraline now because of this. I feel like they do.
Oh, I bet they do. Which is cool. That's a cool name.
I want to see the popularity of the name. Coraline has been among the top 1,000 names for newborn girls in the United States since 2012.
That's a lot. Top 1,000.
This is hilarious. On Google, it says the name has not been among the top 1,000 names for girls in Canada. It was used for 15 newborn girls in that country in 2021.
Wow. But it's in the top 1,000 here.
Yeah, in the US.
Wow. Would you name your daughter Coraline?
Heck no.
No. Okay.
I mean, I think it's a pretty name. I just wouldn't personally.
Yeah.
So just as Gaiman was finishing the book, he met Henry Selick and invited him to make a film adaptation because he was a huge fan of his other movies, which just shows the power of Neil Gaiman, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
And the book was really short, like I mentioned, so they expanded the screenplay to make it movie length, because I think it would have been like a 45-minute movie otherwise.
Okay.
For example, Wybie was not in the book, so that whole storyline was added, which I loved. I thought it was great.
Me too.
And the original book was also set in England, where Neil Gaiman is from. The movie got a great critical response from everyone but Megan, and it was the third highest... I thought I could maybe get you to not notice. And it was the third highest grossing stop motion film of all time, after Chicken Run and Wallace and Gromit. And it won a ton of awards.
I remember it being so popular. Like when we were in elementary school, I remember it being everywhere. And just, I think I was maybe a little bit too young to watch it. No, because it would have come out actually maybe when I was in middle school. Anyway. I remember it being huge when it came out, and I remember everybody really liking it, so I know I'm in the minority here, okay? I'm sorry. I'm not trying to yuck anybody's yum.
No, it's fair. I'm sure a lot of people listening will agree that they also don't like the movie, and it's not their style, so it's totally fine.
And if so, thank you for clicking on this episode.
Honestly, just keep listening to all our episodes. We love it. There are also a ton of Easter eggs in this movie, and we're not even going to begin to cover all of them because there are just so many. But they put Jack Skellington's face in an egg yolk, and there's graffiti on the moving truck that says "Stop Mo Rules," like stop motion.
Gosh, like stop motion. Oh, I didn't catch any of these. That's fun.
Yeah, and I just think that is really crazy to think about them basically building all of these sets, building all of the characters from scratch and all their facial expressions, and then taking the time to also add these little Easter eggs. It's so artistic. I love it.
That is something that throughout the entire movie, I was like, I want a doc on them making this movie. Like, I would love to see them doing all the stop motion and just like understanding how that works. It must be so cool.
It would take forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it blows my mind.
If you guys are interested in how animation works, if you have Disney Plus, I watched the Making of Frozen 2 docuseries, and it's incredible. And they talk a lot about like how the animators will like film themselves acting things out. I'm sure it's different in stop motion, but they'll film themselves acting things out to like see different like ways your body moves so they know how to animate it. It's really cool.
That is cool. You know how I said that I watched this on DVD in 3D with 3D glasses on?
Yeah.
This was apparently the first movie that they did that with, that they made it work for 3D.
Ooh.
And they had to have 2 different camera angles for everything in order to make the 3D work. And so to me, I'm just like, oh my gosh, that sounds like a nightmare first off to even do, but it just blows my mind.
And just an added layer to what I assume is a really complicated animation process to do stop motion. Maybe it's easier than like most animation that happens today, but I assume that it's more complicated since we don't see it a lot. So that feels like very ambitious for them to do all of that. That's cool.
I have a dumb question. With stop motion, is there any actual animation happening? Like anything extra? Or is it all just like the little puppets moving?
That's a really good point.
Frame by frame.
That's a really good point. No, you might be totally right. It might be like Isn't that how they do claymation too?
I think that's
like...
what this is.
Okay.
But I think maybe there are parts that could have been easily animated, so I have no idea.
Yeah. Again, I would love like a little, give me a 1 or 2 episode behind the scenes on it. I would love to see like them moving them around. Like that would be fascinating.
Agree, because when I look it up and I try to read about it, it breaks my brain, so I only went so far, you know?
Yeah. Okay, should we talk about the cast? Mainly the star, Dakota Fanning, who plays Coraline.
Did you know she was Coraline?
I knew because I saw in the outline that she was.
Oh, because
But
I wrote it?
I don't think I ever, yes, but I don't think I ever would have guessed that it was her.
Yeah.
Was she little? Or I guess she wouldn't have been that young, right?
It was 2009, and she's, what, 30-something?
So she would have been a teenager probably.
I think
or
so.
Tween.
Yeah, or like late teens, early, I don't even know.
Math is hard.
Math is hard, especially at this time of day. So, you know Dakota Fanning. We talked about her a lot in our Uptown Girls episode. She's also from Charlotte's Web, The Runaways, The Secret Life of Bees, Twilight, and most recently, The Perfect Couple and The Watchers. She's from Conyers, Georgia, and she comes from a really sporty family, which I guess I never realized. Her mom was a pro tennis player, her dad played minor league baseball, and her aunt was an ESPN reporter.
Wow, very sporty.
I know. And she said that she got into acting super young, and people always ask her if her parents pushed her into it. That's kind of the assumption that we have about child acting. But she says that because she comes from a family of athletes, they always had her try a ton of things. So she tried different sports, she tried ballet, she tried acting, and acting was what she loved. And she said that she was a really mature child. She didn't become that way because of acting. It's just always how she was.
It just makes me think of Uptown Girls.
Exactly what I was going to say.
That's her.
And I'm just imagining her being like, Mom, I was made to act.
Just very matter of fact.
Yeah, keep signing me up for stuff. She said, and if I was misbehaving, my mom would be like, we're going to go home. We're going back to Georgia and we're done. But I'd never felt the confidence and security that I feel from being an actor. It just felt right.
I love that.
Yeah. Her sister is Elle Fanning from Super 8, The Great, and many more things. And both Dakota and Elle use their middle names as their given names due to family tradition. So it's Hannah Dakota Fanning and Mary Elle Fanning.
Wow. That's cool.
Do you know anybody else who does this? Because I actually do know a family where they all use their middle names as their main name.
Okay. No, I know a couple of people that do that, but it's not like a family tradition. It's just ended up that way because they like their middle name better.
Yeah, I had never heard of it until this one family where every single person in the family had like this first name that nobody actually called them by, and it was their middle name, and that was what the intention was on their birth certificate, was to always call them by their middle name.
Wow.
Coraline was also originally going to be live action, and Dakota Fanning was going to be Coraline still.
Oh, I would have actually loved to see that, I feel like.
I wonder if this was like closer to when the book came out, like 2003-ish, that they were talking about this.
Because she would have been younger, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But the creators were so happy that she agreed to do the stop motion as well. I thought this was pretty cool too. This month, Dakota was featured by The Cut. She said what's exciting her most right now is producing, and she and her sister Elle started a production company called Llewellyn and bought the rights to Paris Hilton's memoir.
Cool.
And they're working on it with A24 and Paris herself.
Cool.
I know, she recently posted on Instagram this photo of her with "That's Hot" on her, like little tattoos on her chest.
I love that. Oh, that's fun. And A24. That's going to be good.
I know. We love it. HBO or A24, I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
People are hoping that Elle and Dakota play Paris and Nikki Hilton.
Oh my gosh. They must.
That
must be the plan, right?
I hope so.
I hope so too.
Dakota says, Paris is a friend now, which is like, if you told me this at 12, I would have lost my shit. She's a genius. Similar to what I'm saying about playing with my persona and loving to surprise people and subvert people's perceptions, I think Paris has that too, and we've connected a lot over that. It's been a fun adventure so far.
Cool. I love that.
She also said she's always been really private, and now she finally feels like she can open up. She said, "I think I feel more secure in sharing different sides of myself. For so much of my life, it felt like people were just waiting for me to make a massive mistake. Finally, I think everybody sees that I've grown up, so I don't have to worry about those things anymore. There's a bigger freedom to play with my persona, or just be a little bit more myself and not worry that everything that I do or say is going to be so picked apart."
I love that for her.
Me too.
Okay, and then the other actress we're going to talk about is Terry Hatcher, who plays Coraline's mom and the other mother. I was wondering if they were the same actress.
Yeah, she did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
She's Lois Lane from Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, and she's Susan from Desperate Housewives, which I feel like is where a lot of people know her from. She was also a cheerleader for the San Francisco 49ers at one point, which I thought was interesting.
That's fun.
Just reminded me of the Dallas Cowboys cheerleader documentary, which I loved. And Terry Hatcher has a really long acting career. I'm sure you guys are familiar with her. A lot of the things, though, I'm not super familiar with, and I don't think Megan is either. So I'm so sorry to our parents listening who are going to be like, "You didn't cover Terry Hatcher." But I just don't think that her other projects are relevant to talk about right now.
Sorry.
But you did great in this movie, Terry.
Okay, should we get into the movie?
Let's do it.
So in the opening, this creepy music plays, and we see a doll being made by metallic hands. And the doll gets transformed from a girl with braids into a girl with blue hair and a yellow raincoat and black buttons for eyes. And when it's done, it floats out the window.
This is where we lost Megan.
Yes. This is where I said, no, not the button eyes.
A car and movers pull up to the Pink Palace apartments. A black cat watches the movers pull away, and then we see Coraline Jones go out the back door into the yard, and she's got blue hair and a yellow raincoat, just like the doll. I thought this was cool. When Coraline's mom tips the movers, the director, Henry Selick, is on the dollar bill.
That's fun.
I was thinking, who is that on the dollar bill? Because it doesn't look like George Washington, but Henry Selick.
Henry Selick, cool. Then Coraline finds a stick and pretends it's a dowsing rod. The black cat follows her as she explores around, and when it makes a noise, she gets scared and runs into the woods. And when Coraline realizes that it's just a cat following her, she tells it that she's looking for a well, and she uses the dowsing rod to try to find it again.
Then a figure on a motorbike in a skull mask honks their horn and rides up to her. Then the figure lifts their mask, and we find out that it's just a boy from the neighborhood. Coraline is not excited about him and gives him sass their entire conversation. And I will just say, Coraline is never not giving sass. Just
Coraline
the entire
is
movie.
giving sass the whole time to everyone.
To everyone.
Usually very justified.
Honestly, yes. I feel bad for her in a lot of parts.
Mm-hmm.
The boy tells her that she's standing on the well that she's looking for. And he says supposedly it's so deep that if you fell to the bottom and looked up, you'd see a sky full of stars.
The boy also tells her that his grandmother owns the Pink Palace apartments, and he's surprised that she let her move in, because she doesn't rent to people with kids. And when Coraline asks him why, he says he's not supposed to talk about it.
Creepy.
Creepy.
Then he introduces himself, and his name is Wybie, short for Wyborn. Wybie accidentally calls Coraline Caroline, and she gets mad and says she hears someone calling for Wyborn, as in, why were you born? She's so mean. His grandma really is calling for him, though, and as he leaves, he tells her that the dowsing rod she's been holding is poison oak.
It's raining, and Coraline is bored and frustrated, and she has itchy poison oak all over her hands. And her mom is busy working from home on an article about plants. So this is where we find out that her mom is a writer and an editor, I believe. She tells Coraline that a boy left a package for her, and the note on the package says, "Hey Jonesy, look what I found in Grandma's trunk. Look familiar? Wybie." And inside the package is the doll that looks just like her with the button eyes. And Coraline says that that's weird and that she's way too old for dolls.
Coraline goes into her dad's office, and he's also writing about plants. So I think the dynamic is her dad writes, her mom edits what he writes. They work together.
I think that's right, yeah.
And he looks exhausted, which, by the way, her mom did too. And he hardly looks up from his computer. Her mom also has a neck brace, and I think we found out that they got in a car accident recently. Anyway, things are just, like, not looking good for them. Coraline asks her dad for the garden tools, and he asks what the boss said about going outside when it's pouring out. Coraline imitates her mom and says, "Don't even think about going out, Coraline Jones." And her dad says, "Then you won't need the tools." She then starts squeaking his office door back and forth and being really annoying. And her dad tells her to explore the house, count the windows, do whatever she needs to do, just let him work.
And so she does exactly that. She counts the leaky windows, she kills bugs in the shower, and she accidentally turns off the electricity, which causes her dad to lose all of his work. She just like hears him yelling and she goes, oops, and then just like pushes the button again to turn it back on. She also unpacks her mom's snow globe collection in the empty living room, and the room has this creepy painting over the fireplace of a blonde boy in blue who lost his ice cream.
Coraline has counted all the doors in the house, but now she can't find the Coraline doll, which she calls Little Me. She says, all right, Little Me, where are you hiding? And then she sees the doll lying on the floor next to a box, which is kind of weird because she didn't put it there. So Coraline moves the box and finds a little door that's been wallpapered over, and she begs her mom to come help her unlock the door. So her mom finds the key and unlocks the door for her just so she'll stop pestering her. And the Coraline doll's button eyes gleam when she does this. Very spooky. But when her mom opens the door, there's only bricks on the other side, which is very disappointing.
Then that night at dinner, Coraline's dad sings while dishing out food. And he sings this like song that we can tell that he's probably sang to her whole life growing up. And it goes, oh, my twitchy witchy girl, I think you are so nice. I give you bowls of porridge and I give you bowls of ice cream. And Coraline is disgusted by the dinner that her dad cooked. But her mom says that dad cooks, she cleans, and Coraline stays out of the way.
So rude.
This is the vibe in the family, which makes me feel really bad that she's an only child and her parents work all the time and want her to stay out of it.
Mm-hmm. She's bored.
Mm-hmm.
When Coraline goes to bed, the doll watches her as she sleeps. She dreams about the door, and these mice spiral out from the open door in her dream, but then she wakes up to an actual mouse in her room, and she gets out of bed and chases it downstairs into the living room where the door is, and the mouse goes inside.
When Coraline opens the door, instead of the brick wall this time, there's an expanding tunnel. And she crawls through the door and comes out the other side into the same exact living room. And now in the painting over the fireplace, the blue boy is smiling and eating his ice cream cone. So it's the same, but it's different. Then Coraline walks into the kitchen and sees her mom cooking, and her mom turns around, and she just looks like a happier version of her actual mom, only she has buttons for eyes, just like Coraline's doll. And she smiles and says, you're just in time for supper, dear. And Coraline says, you're not my mother. My mother doesn't have b-b-b-b. The woman says, b-b-buttons? Do you like them? I'm your other mother, silly. Now go tell your other father that supper's ready. And like everything about this house feels better. Don't you think like the lighting is nice? It's like not all gray and drab. It's like decorated and like her mom has so much life to her. So I can see the appeal.
I love the way they did the animation of like her actual house is gray and drab and gloomy. And then this other house is super colorful.
Mm-hmm.
She walks into her dad's office and he's also got button eyes. He plays piano with the help of these hands that come out of the piano. And he sings this song that anytime I hear the word Coraline, this song gets stuck in my head for 3 days. I'm not going to actually sing it, but I'll tell you the song so you remember it too. He says, making up a song about Coraline. She's a peach, she's a doll, she's a pal of mine. She's as cute as a button in the eyes of everyone who ever laid their eyes on Coraline. When she comes around exploring, Mom and I will never ever make it boring. Our eyes will be on Coraline.
It's a really cute song, actually. I loved it.
It's so fun, and I was singing it like all last night. Dinner is a feast with this huge roasted chicken, and there's a model train that carries gravy, and it's this big show. And while Coraline eats, we notice that the other mother doesn't. Then the other mother gives Coraline a cake that says, welcome home. Coraline says, home? Other mother and other father say that they've been waiting for her. But Coraline is unsure, and she's a little unsettled now. And she says she didn't know she had an other mother. And the other mother says, of course you do. Everyone does.
Her other mother says that when she's done eating, they can play a game, hide and seek in the rain. And Coraline says, what rain? And then we hear this like thunder crack outside. And Coraline asks about the mud, and other mother says they love mud, and it's good for poison oak. And Coraline is suspicious that other mother knows that she has poison oak, but she says, I'd love to play, but I'd better get home to my other mother. And then other mother says, but I'm your other mother. And Coraline says, I mean my other mother. Mom number one, I think I should get to bed. and Other Mother tells her that her bed is all made up and leads her into her other bedroom.
Her other room is amazing and magical, and all her toys and decorations talk to her. Other Mother puts mud on her poison oak, and Coraline goes to bed while her other parents watch her, which is so weird.
Very weird.
Then Coraline wakes up in her real room, which is really dingy in comparison, and she notices that her poison oak is gone, and she goes to check the little door, but it's all bricked up. She tells her parents about her other parents, and her mom tells her that it's just a dream.
Then Coraline leaves the apartment and finds a bunch of packages for someone named Bobinski. The packages smell bad, and she sees a sign pointing upstairs that reads Bobinski, and she takes the packages to her upstairs neighbor. And the neighbor is this huge blue man who swings down from the roof, and he says the Jumping Mouse Circus isn't ready yet. But he tells her the packages are his new cheese samples. And he calls her Caroline and explains how the new cheese will help his mice circus. Coraline says, Coraline, and leaves because she's mad that he called her Caroline. But as she's walking in the lawn, Bobinski jumps down from the roof and tells her that the mice asked him to give her a message. And the message is, do not go through the little door. And she says, but it's all bricked up. And he says, sorry, and that the mice get mixed up sometimes, like they call her Coraline instead of Caroline. And he says, maybe I work them too hard. I feel like she takes the clue that because they know her real name, they must know what's actually going on. Mm-hmm. And this is actually when I went, oh, no. The mice are saying, don't go through the little door.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
I thought this was kind of an interesting design choice in the movie. Mr. Bobinski wears a medal that is actually a real medal. It was given to the civil and military personnel who dealt with the Chernobyl disaster in 1986.
Wow.
So this might explain why his skin is blue. I think he was like a liquidator or something in the disaster.
Wow.
So then Coraline goes to her downstairs neighbor's apartment, where two old women named Miss Spink and Miss Forcible live with 3 Scotty dogs. And they have an entire wall of stuffed Scotty dogs. They're all their old pets that died, and they couldn't bear to part with them, so they stuffed them. Which is...
a choice. It's an interesting choice.
Miss Spink reads Coraline's tea leaves and says, Caroline, 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 you're in terrible danger. Spink says that she sees a peculiar hand in the tea leaves, but Forcible flips the cup around and says she sees a giraffe. And they fight about it, and Coraline thanks them for the tea and leaves.
And it's foggy outside now, and through the fog, Coraline spots Wybie and calls him the village stalker. And he says that he and the black cat are hunting banana slugs. And Coraline calls the cat a wuss puss because it doesn't want to get its feet wet and is sitting on Wybie's shoulder while he hunts. Then Coraline asks if Wybie made the doll look like her, and he says that he found it that way, and it's probably older than Grandma. And then he tells her to check out Slugzilla, and Coraline gets frustrated and says that he's just like her parents because they don't listen to her either.
I think this is a theme, is that nobody listens to her and nobody calls her Coraline.
Mm-hmm.
Wybie tells her that he's never been inside the Pink Palace apartments, and his grandma says it's dangerous. Grandma used to have a twin sister, and she disappeared when they were kids. Grandma says that she was stolen. The cat notices the doll staring at them through the window. Then Grandma calls for Wybie, and he rides away on his motorbike.
When Coraline goes to bed that night, she leaves cheese out for the mice. And when they come in, she excitedly chases them downstairs to the little door and crawls through.
In the other kitchen, Other Mother is making breakfast and thanks her for the cheese, which she's now grating into scrambled eggs. She asks her to fetch her father. Coraline says, "You mean my other father?" And Other Mother says, "Your better father, dear. He's out in the garden."
So Coraline goes out into the garden, which comes alive as she enters it. There are tons of glowing plants, flowers, and hummingbirds. And her other father rides a praying mantis tractor and tells her to hop on because he wants to show her something. And the tractor starts to fly, and as they zoom out over the garden, we see that the garden is actually a portrait of Coraline.
As Coraline eats breakfast for dinner with the other parents, Other Mother tells her that Mr. Bobinski has invited her to see the jumping mice perform after dinner. Other Wybie, with button eyes, shows up at the door, and Coraline says, "Great, another Wybie. Hello, why were you born?" But Wybie only waves and smiles, and he doesn't speak. And Other Mother says, "I thought you'd like him more if he spoke a little less, so I fixed him."
Red flag.
Mm-hmm. One of many.
Other Wybie and Coraline run upstairs to Other Bobinski's place, and this Bobinski's attic apartment is set up like a carnival, and they enter a tent in the middle of the room, and the mice jump out and spell Coraline's name in the air, and the mice jump around and they play these tiny instruments, and then other Babinski comes out in a ringmaster's outfit, and he's much more put together than the real Babinski.
Other mother, father, and Wybie all watch Coraline sleep. Again, scary.
Mm-hmm.
And again, she wakes up in her real bedroom this time. And she's disappointed this time, actually. When she goes to check the door, it's locked.
Then Coraline and her mom drop her dad off at an appointment for work, and then they go shopping for school uniforms. And Coraline is just bored out of her mind. But she finds a pair of colorful gloves that she wants because everyone at school will be wearing boring gray clothes and no one else will have these gloves. And when her mom tells her to put them back, Coraline says that her other mother would get them for her. And her mom says, well, maybe she should buy all your clothes.
In the car on the way home, Coraline asks why her mom locked the little door. Her mom says that she found rat crap and thought she'd feel safer if she locked it. And Coraline's pretty upset about this.
Then when they get home, Coraline's mom realizes there's no food and goes out to the grocery store. She asks if Coraline wants to come and can pick out something she likes, but Coraline gives her sass about not getting the gloves. And her mom promises she'll make it up to her if things go well at Coraline's dad's appointment today. And her mom says that she won't be long, and Coraline says, but I might be.
She finds the key, which her mom hung high on a hook above a door. When she opens the door, the tunnel appears again. And she says, I knew it was real. And she crawls in, and we see the black cat watching her sadly from the window. When she gets to the other apartment, the other mother has left her food, a star sweater that she made for her, and a note that says Miss Spink and Forcible invited her downstairs after lunch.
When Coraline leaves the house to go to the downstairs apartment, there's a black cat on the roof. And Coraline says, Wybie's got a cat like you at home. You must be the other cat. And the cat shakes his head and says, no, I'm not the other anything. I'm me. So this is the same cat, which I love. That was a fun twist.
Yay.
Coraline says that she sees that he doesn't have button eyes, but asks how he can talk, and he says that he just can. And when Coraline says that cats don't talk at home, the cat says, well, you're clearly the expert on these things. After all, I'm just a big fat wuss puss. And Coraline apologizes for calling him that and asks how he got here.
The cat says he's been coming here for a while. He says, it's a game we play. She hates cats and tries to keep me out. But she can, of course. I come and go as I please. Coraline says, the other mother hates cats? And the cat says, not like any mother I've ever known. Coraline defends the other mother and says that she's amazing. And the cat says, you probably think this world is a dream come true, but you're wrong. The other Wybie told me so. And Coraline says that's nonsense, because other Wybie can't talk. The cat says, perhaps not to you, and then he hears something and he runs away.
So Coraline goes downstairs into Miss Spink and Forcible's apartment, and it's a giant theater full of Scotty dogs ready to watch a performance. Coraline sits in an empty chair next to the other Wybie, and the performance begins, and other Miss Spink comes out in a mermaid costume. Other Miss Forcible comes out wearing hardly anything, like the Birth of Venus painting. It's honestly hilarious and amazing, these, ladies in their costumes.
I was also like, this is a kid's movie?
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I was like, this is inappropriate. They're naked. And they compete while singing, and everything gets knocked over on set. And the curtains close, and then a Scotty dog nudges a bucket full of water onto the stage. The spotlights tilt up to diving boards near the ceiling, and Miss Spink and Forcible each stand on one. Coraline covers her eyes, and as they're jumping, Spink and Forcible each unzip their disguises, and their younger selves emerge and grab these hanging, swinging trapeze bars, and they pull Coraline into the air and toss and flip her onto the trapeze bars, and Spink and Forcible then dive into the bucket of water and come back out to catch Coraline.
It's very fancy.
It was really something.
When Coraline and other Wybie leave the show, other mother and other father are waiting for her. Coraline excitedly tells them about the show while other Wybie looks uncomfortable. And when the other parents take Coraline inside, other mother motions for other Wybie to smile.
Other mother says Coraline can stay here forever if she wants to, but there's one thing she'd have to do. Then other mother gives Coraline a wrapped gift, and inside is a pair of black buttons. And Coraline screams, "You're not sewing buttons in my eyes!" And other father says, "So sharp you won't feel a thing." And other mother kicks him under the table to get him to stop talking. And other mother says it's Coraline's decision and they only want what's best for her. But Coraline is very freaked out by all of this, and she says she's going to bed, and she pretends to be tired and goes up to her room.
Coraline runs up to her other room and throws all of her talking toys into a toy box and barricades the door. She says she's going home tonight and she won't be back. She gets under the blankets and tries to force herself to go to sleep. The next morning when she wakes up, she excitedly yells for her mom and dad, but she realizes that she's still in her other room. She runs down to the other living room to try to leave, but the door is locked.
She goes into her other father's study and tells him that she wants to go home, and he spins around, and for the first time, he looks tired, and he has messy hair, so it's not this perfect persona version of her father. And he says, "All will be well soon. All will be swell soon as mother's refreshed. Her strength is our strength." Then hands come out of the piano, and one covers his mouth, and one wags a finger at him like he's not supposed to say that. And he spins back around to the piano and says, "Mustn't talk when mother's not here." And Coraline says, "If you won't even talk to me, I'm going to find the other Wybie. He'll help me." And other father says, "No point. He pulled a long face." And he pulls the corners of his mouth and makes this scary Joker face kind of. And mother didn't like it. And then the hands pull him back to the piano, and Coraline gets scared and runs out of the house into the woods.
As she's walking, the cat comes up to her and asks what she's doing, and she says she's getting out of here. But as they walk, the trees start getting less detailed until there's nothing at all. Coraline's confused because the well should be out here. And the cat says that this is the empty part of this world, and she only made what she knew would impress Coraline. Coraline asks why she wants her, and the cat says he thinks she wants something to love, something that isn't her. Or maybe she just loves something to eat.
As they're walking through the emptiness, the house materializes in front of them again, even though they were just walking away from the house. And Coraline says, "How can you walk away from something and still come back to it?" And the cat says, "Walk around the world." And Coraline says, "Small world."
A mouse plays a tiny trumpet, and the cat pins it to the ground, and when he bites it, it turns into a large rat, and sawdust pours out of it. He says it was sounding an alarm. The cat runs off, and Coraline says, "Good kitty." Then she takes a cane out of the umbrella stand on the porch and bravely goes inside.
She uses the cane to pop open the locked door to the other living room, and the furniture inside it is all glowing bugs. And the other mother spins around on a bug couch and says, "Even the proudest spirit can be broken with love." And she offers her a candy dish full of cocoa beetles from Zanzibar, and Coraline is disgusted. The other mother bites the head off of one, and it's the first thing we've actually seen her eat.
Coraline says, "I want to be with my real mom and dad. I want you to let me go." The other mother says, "Is that any way to talk to your mother?" Coraline gets mad and says, "You aren't my mother." The other mother says, "Apologize at once, Coraline." And when Coraline says no, the other mother says she'll give her until the count of 3. And as she counts, she stands up and becomes taller and skinnier and scarier. On the count of 3, she grabs Coraline by the nose, drags her into the hallway, and shoves her through a mirror that's kind of a doorway. Coraline falls to the ground on the other side of the mirror, and the other mother sticks her head through the mirror and says, "You may come out when you've learned to be a loving daughter."
Coraline pounds and kicks on the mirror door, but she's trapped behind the mirror in this dark closet-like small room. And there's a bed in the corner, and under the sheets are glowing shapes. And a voice says, "Hush, for the beldam might be listening." Coraline says, "You mean the other mother?" And she removes the sheets to reveal 3 ghost children with button eyes, a boy, a small girl with braids, and a tall girl with a permanent scream face.
Coraline asks, "Who are you?" The little boy ghost says, "Don't remember our names, but I remember my true mommy." She asks why they're here, and they all say, "The beldam." They say that she spied on their lives through the little doll's eyes, saw they weren't happy, and lured them away with treasures, treats, and games to play. They still wanted more, so they let her sew the buttons. Then she locked them up and ate up their lives.
Kind of gives Hansel and Gretel a little bit.
Yeah, oh yeah, totally.
Then Coraline says, "Well, she can't keep me in the dark forever, not if she wants to win my life. Beating her is my only chance." And then the little girl with braids says, "Perhaps if you do win your escape, could you find our eyes?" And the children tell Coraline that the other mother took their eyes and hid them, but if Coraline finds them, their souls will be freed. And so Coraline says that she'll try. and then hands reach in the mirror and pull her out.
She struggles against her attacker, who wears a mask. But when she pulls off the mask, she realizes that it's other Wybie. But now his mouth has been stitched into a permanent smile. Coraline unstitches his smile and says she hopes that feels better, but he shushes her and pulls her into the other living room, which is unlocked and open.
They push the bug-shaped dresser out of the way of the little door, and it crashes to the floor. The other mother calls, "Coraline, is that you?" And when they open the little door, the tunnel passageway is filled with spider webs and the clothing and belongings of the other kids who tried to escape.
Coraline grabs other Wybie's arm and says, "Come on, she'll hurt you again." But other Wybie shakes his head no, pulls off his glove, and reveals a hand made of sawdust. He blows his fingers away. The other mother calls, "Coraline, how dare you disobey your mother?"
Then other Wybie pushes Coraline through the door and closes it, and she speeds through the tunnel and makes it back to her real apartment. Once she gets there, she locks the door, and Coraline calls, "I'm home, anybody here?" But there's no answer, and then she sees her mom's groceries on the table, because remember the last thing her mom said was that she was going to the grocery store. But when she grabs the grocery bag, it spills out to reveal spoiled food and fruit flies.
The doorbell rings, and Coraline excitedly runs to go get it. She says, "I missed you guys so much, you'll never..." But it's just Wybie, the real one this time. And she says, "Oh, the Wybie that talks." Sass.
Still sassy. Not excited to see the real Wybie, even though the other Wybie just saved her. Wybie laughs nervously and says that his grandma is real mad that he gave her the doll and says that it was her sister's, the one that disappeared. And Coraline realizes that he stole the doll and he says it looked just like her, so he figured he'd give it to her. Coraline says it used to look like the Pioneer Girl, then Huck Finn Jr., then it was this Little Rascals chick with all these ribbons and braids, and Grandma's missing sister. She says, "I think I just met her. Come on."
Coraline walks him to the little door and says Grandma's missing sister is in there, but she won't unlock it in a million years. Besides, she can't escape without her eyes. And you can tell Wybie thinks she's crazy for saying this, and he says he really needs to get that doll. Coraline goes to find it and continues telling Wybie about the other mother and how the doll is her spy, but she can't find the doll anywhere. And then Wybie is pretty freaked out that she's saying all this nonsense, so he pretends his grandma is calling him. And Coraline says, "Don't believe me? You can ask the cat." And so then he says, "I'm just going to tell Grandma I couldn't find the doll." And Coraline gets mad that he's not listening to her. Again, like no one will listen to her. And he says, "That's 'cause you're crazy."
Can't blame him really this time.
No.
So Coraline chases him outside and away from the house, and then she sees her parents' car outside, but no one's in it. And she finds her mom's cell phone and calls her dad, but he doesn't answer. So Coraline goes to Miss Spink and Forcible and tells them that her parents vanished. And they grab a dish of candy and stab it with knitting needles until all of the candy gets crushed. And at the bottom of the bowl is a 3-sided candy/stone with a hole in it. Miss Spink and Forcible fight over whether it's good for bad things or lost things. And Coraline can't stand it anymore and takes the candy with the hole in it and leaves.
That night, Coraline goes to sleep in her parents' empty bed and she cries. While she's sleeping, something bats at her nose, and it's the black cat. She asks if he knows where Mom and Dad are, and he silently takes her to the hall mirror. She looks into it and sees her parents shivering, and her mom writes "Help us" in the condensation on the mirror. Coraline smashes the mirror and it shatters. She asks the cat how this happened, and he pulls the button-eyed doll out from under her parents' bed. And it's now been remade from Coraline into her parents, so her mom is on one side of the doll, and her dad is on the other. Coraline burns the doll in the fireplace. Then she looks at the snow globes on top of the fireplace and says to the cat, "They're not coming back, are they? Not on their own. Only one thing to do."
So Coraline packs a bag, and she and the cat open the little door and crawl through the tunnel. And the cat says, "You know you're walking right into her trap." And Coraline says, "I have to go back. They're my parents." And the cat says, "Challenge her then. She may not play fair, but she won't refuse. She's got a thing for games."
As Coraline enters the other apartment, her mom says, "Coraline, you came back for us." And Coraline is so relieved and she hugs her. But then her mom asks, "Why would you run away from me?" And she grows into the tall, skinny, scary other mother. Coraline asks where her parents are. Other mother says she doesn't know and tells her to have a seat. Other father is now short, round, and orange with vines for hair, and he's turning into a pumpkin. He plops Coraline into a bug chair, and a rat jumps out of the tunnel and gives the other mother the little door key, and she locks the door and then eats the key. Which, why is that so scary? I don't know, but it is. Other father says, "Only one key," and other mother shushes him and drags him away, and there are muffled, scary noises.
Then other mother says it's breakfast time and starts cooking in the other kitchen. Coraline tells herself to be strong and sits at the table, and on the table is the box with the buttons in it, and this makes Coraline sweat and start to freak out, and she says, "Why don't we play a game? I know you like them." And other mother's button eyes gleam, and she says, "Everybody likes games. What kind of game would it be?" And Coraline says it's a finding things game. If she finds her parents and the eyes of the ghost children, other mother will let her go and everyone she's ever trapped here. But if she loses, Coraline agrees to stay here forever and let her love her, and sew buttons into her eyes. Other mother says it's a deal, and Coraline asks for a clue. Other mother only gives a clue for the ghost children, and the clue is, "In each of 3 wonders I've made just for you, a ghost's eye is lost in plain sight." The other mother disappears and leaves Coraline to solve the riddle.
Coraline goes out into the garden, but it's not a happy garden anymore. The flowers and plants start attacking her, and she has to cut herself free with the garden shears that she brought with her. These hummingbird wasps steal her triangle candy, and she throws her hat at them like a frisbee and kills them. And then she's like, "Why would they steal this?" And then she holds the candy up to her eye and looks through the little hole in it, and the world turns black and white through the hole, but she sees a bright red sphere through it. She realizes that this must be a ghost eye, and it's the stick shift knob on the praying mantis tractor, and then it roars to life with the other father on it, and he is now full pumpkin mode, and he's being controlled by the piano hands. He apologizes as the hands make him drive the tractor to attack her, and he says Mother is making him, and he doesn't want to hurt Coraline. Then while they're on a bridge, he frees one of his hand from the mechanical piano hands, pulls the knob off of the stick shift, gives it to her, and then sinks down underwater with the tractor. The garden completely dies as soon as Coraline has the ghost eye, and the ghost eye glows, and the boy ghost inside says, "Bless you, miss, you found me." But there's 2 eyes still lost.
Then Coraline goes downstairs to the other Spink and Forcible's apartment, and the 2 are wrapped in a scary candy wrapper, and Coraline grabs the glowing pearl inside their interlocked hands, and the 2 of them attack her and turn into this twisted taffy monster, but the Scotty dogs, which now have wings like bats, attack, and Coraline gets the pearl. It's the tall ghost girl's eye, and the apartment turns gray, and the tall girl says her web is unwinding.
Next, Coraline goes to Other Babinski's upstairs house, and Other YB's empty clothes and sneakers hang from a flagpole outside. Coraline yells, "Evil witch, I'm not scared," and goes inside Other Babinski's apartment. The glowing sphere here is a circus ball. Other Babinski is just these empty, scary clothes, there's no face or body that we see. Coraline grabs his hat and rats come out of his clothes. She accidentally loses her triangle candy while throwing it at the rats, and then she falls out of the apartment to the ground. The moon is becoming covered by a shadow that's in the shape of a button, and Coraline realizes that she's now lost everything because she couldn't get the circus ball. But then a dead rat drops down with the ball, and the cat appears. He says, "I think I mentioned that I don't like rats at the best of times." And she thanks him, and when she grabs the ball, which is the 3rd ghost eye, the outside of the house turns white and dead. The moon is fully covered by the button shadow now, and then the whole sky turns white, and the world starts crumbling away, and Coraline and the cat run into the house.
I love the cat. The cat might be my favorite character.
I know, he's great.
I love him. Also, I just realized this, and maybe this is so dumb that you can tell me. Is the little candy thing, the triangle candy that she has, the reason that the eyes are glowing? Are they what helps her find them?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when she looks through it, she doesn't get distracted by any colors anymore. She only sees the spheres in color.
Got it. Okay. Then Coraline goes into the bug living room, and the other mother now looks even scarier. Her face is white and crackling, and her hands are made of needles, and she kind of looks like a spider. And this is the beldam in her true form. The beldam says that she still needs to find her old parents, and this time she won't have her triangle candy. The beldam spins it around her finger and throws it into the fire. And the ghost eyes glow and tell her to be clever because even if she wins, the beldam will never let her go. And Coraline eyes the little door, which is barricaded again by the furniture, and she gets an idea. She says, I already know where you've hidden them. They're behind that door.
She's so smart. I love it.
She is. She's very clever and sneaky.
The beldam gets excited and gets the furniture to move. Coraline hears her mom's finger on glass, and she and the cat both notice that her parents are freezing inside the snow globe on the mantle. The beldam doesn't notice, and she coughs up the key into her hand. She unlocks the door and says very sing-songy, You're wrong, Coraline. They aren't there. Now you're going to stay here forever.
I will say I love Other Mother's voice.
It's so sweet sounding.
It's so sweet and calming, and I want like every audiobook to be read by Other Mother.
Terry Hatcher.
Yeah.
She has a good voice.
She does. Then Coraline throws the cat at the beldam and grabs the snow globe. And the cat rips out the beldam's button eyes, and the living room turns into a giant web, and the beldam starts blindly looking for Coraline. But Coraline crawls up the web and gets through the little door. But as she's doing that, the beldam thrusts her arm inside, and the hands of the ghost children grab Coraline's hands to help her shut the door. And it shuts on the beldam's metallic hand, and the metallic hand comes off. So this is the little, like, robot-looking spider hand that Jeni was talking about at the beginning. And Coraline locks the door and leaves the hand in the tunnel while the beldam screams that she'll die without her. And the tunnel gets shorter and shorter, and Coraline gets out to the other side into her real apartment and locks the door. But she doesn't see the hand, right? Yeah.
Coraline checks her bag, but the snow globe is gone. Then she sees it broken and dripping on the mantle. She hears her mom say, Coraline, we're home. She throws her arms around her parents and says that she missed them. They're covered in snow, but they don't notice, and they're kind of confused that she missed them, as if they had just seen her 2 seconds ago. And her mom says, oh no, you broke my favorite snow globe, and you scraped your knee. Her dad says, Coraline, I asked you to count all the windows, not put your knee through them. And no matter what she says, they don't listen. But they say they're going out tonight to celebrate their win with the garden catalog, because everything went well with her dad's appointment.
Is the moral of the story supposed to be listen or like appreciate your parents even if they don't listen to you, kids? Even if they're strict?
I was wondering that because I was like, man, you think that in this story people are going to start listening to her, and no one really does. But she becomes very grateful for the parents that she does have, I guess. Okay. I wish I could have a deeper answer, but
I still like the story, but it is kind of funny. I was thinking about it. I was like, is the point of this just like, kids, be grateful that you have parents? I don't know.
I do think we see the softer side of them, because then we see them, like in a minute, we see her dad like play with one of her toys with her and that kind of thing. So I don't know. Maybe it's just like, yeah, appreciate the parents you got. That's kind of a weird message though.
Maybe it's supposed to be some version of the grass is not always greener, I guess.
Yeah, you guys are a lot smarter than me. Tell me what you think the meaning of the story is.
Yeah, let us know. So then Coraline's parents, her actual parents, tuck her into bed, and her mom tucks a present in with her, and it's the gloves she wanted. And then the cat shows up at her window and is mad, and he silently listens to her apology for throwing him at the beldam, and she says it's all she could think of. I did think about that when she threw him. I was like, oh my God, they did not talk about that.
He was unprepared.
He's just got launched. Coraline says it's time to set the ghosts free, and she puts the 3 spheres under her pillow while she and the cat fall asleep. And then she wakes up to a starry night vision where the ghosts thank her but say it's not over and done with for her yet. They say she's in terrible danger, and the beldam will find the key, which is tied around Coraline's neck.
So Coraline gets out of bed and she leaves the house, and we see the metallic hand squeeze out from the little door. Coraline walks through the woods, and she has a blanket wrapped around her shoulders, and she sings to herself while the hand just skitters after her.
Doesn't she sing the song that her dad sings to her?
The twitchy, itchy, twitchy
The twitchy,
girl.
witchy girl, yeah.
Bowls of ice cream. That's the part I always remember.
Yeah.
I thought this was a fun fact. There are cherry blossoms in this scene, and those blossoms were actually made from over 250,000 pieces of popcorn that the crew painted pink.
Whoa. Okay, so that answers our question. It is real. It's like real life that they're filming, I guess.
Yeah, I think most of it, if not all of it.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and if you look at like screen caps of it, you can tell that it's popcorn. It's kind of funny.
Oh, that's really cool.
Coraline finds the well, and as soon as the hand sees the key, I'm putting sees in quotes because it doesn't have eyes, it grabs the key and pulls Coraline back to her house by the neck because it's like hanging around her neck as a necklace. But then Wyatt comes on his motorbike and he gets the hand and he smashes it with a rock. And then Coraline wraps it up with a blanket, ties the key necklace around it, and they throw it down into the well. It falls for a very long time, and then they cover the well back up.
YB apologizes for not believing her and says what made him change his mind is that Grandma showed him a picture of her and her twin sister, and it's the ghost girl with the braids. And Coraline tells him to bring his grandma over to the house tomorrow for a garden party, and they can tell her what happened to her sister. And then the next day is sunny and beautiful, and all of the neighbors are at the garden party, and her parents are planting tulips because they're passionate gardeners. And Mr. Babinski says the mice tell him that Coraline is a savior. And then YB shows up with his grandma, and Coraline says, "I'm Coraline Jones. I have so much to tell you." And we zoom out on the Pink Palace apartments, and the cat is sitting on top of the apartment sign, and he stretches and yawns and then walks behind the sign, disappearing into nothing. That's the end.
It left me with the question, where did he go?
It's a good question.
Another dimension? Is he even from Earth? I don't know. I'll leave you with one last fun fact. At the very end of the film, there's a screen that says, "For those in the know, jerkwad." I actually didn't double check to see if this is still there, so if somebody watches this afterwards, let me know if this is still after the credits. But jerkwad was a password that gave people access to a Coraline website, which was like a really big thing to do back in the day, is like hide Easter eggs for the code to a website for the movie. And it gave fans a chance to win a pair of Nike Dunk sneakers that were decorated with the black cat and a circus mouse.
That's cool.
Yeah, so you could get your own Coraline Dunks.
Jerkwad. That's really funny.
I know, isn't that weird?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm realizing, like, is the moral that that Coraline saved those kids and was brave, and she didn't need anybody to, like, tell her that she did a good job?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Well, I think there's, like, lots of different themes here. Like, I love
Yeah.
how brave and strong Coraline is, and she really doesn't need the validation from anybody. She just wants to do what's right. But what you said about the parents is, like, gonna nag at me for a while. And I feel like one of you're going to message us on Instagram and you're going to be like, duh, silly gooses. This is what really like the moral is. But yeah, let us know. I'll be thinking about
I feel
it.
like it's got to be staring us in the face and I'm not getting it. And it's going to be really obvious when you guys tell us. So please do.
I feel like there's so many different like themes and things that I get out of this movie, but I just don't know exactly with the parents what it is for me. But I do like them. I think they're doing their best. I think they're stressed. They've just been in a car accident. They're struggling with money. They're struggling with their jobs. And their daughter is not being grateful for anything.
Maybe it's also supposed to be for the parents watching, like for the adults watching, to be like, this is how it looks to your kid when you're work obsessed and you can't take a break for them, when they just have this big imagination and want you to listen.
Ooh, the moral is for the parents, not for the kid.
Could be.
What a good twist. I like that. We can run with that.
Okay, great.
The moral is kind of what you make it to be.
Yeah.
So whatever
That's
you
what
get out
we're
of the
getting.
movie is real.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for listening, and thank you for suggesting this because I never would have watched this movie otherwise.
And she kind of regrets it a little bit.
I don't. I'm glad I've seen it. It was like such a big deal growing up, and I always was like scared of it and felt like lame that I was scared of it. So I'm glad I've seen it now. I at least know what it's about.
You know what like the good parts of the movie are, at least.
Yeah. And the fact that it was Dakota Fanning. I did feel better when I found out that it was Dakota Fanning. So I was like, how scary could it be if Dakota Fanning is the voice, you know?
How hard could it be? Boys do it.
Well, thank you guys so much for listening. We hope that you're enjoying our spooky month. We have one more week.
One more week. That makes me sad. I'm not ready.
I know. I hope you guys have fun if you're going to like a Halloween party this weekend or something. I think a lot of people are doing that this weekend since it's the weekend before Halloween.
Yeah, have fun, be safe, and watch out for our next episode because it's one that was highly requested by you guys.
Also, if you dress up as any movie characters, tag us at What We're Watching Pod on Instagram. I would love to see what you guys dress up as.
Oh my gosh, you know what you should do, Megan? You should repost that video that you posted last year.
Oh, with costume ideas.
Yeah, Megan gave some really good costume ideas, and we didn't have like any followers at the time because we had just started our podcast. So yeah. I think you should repost for the girlies.
Okay, I will. I'll put it on our stories or something. You guys keep an eye out if you need ideas.
We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for listening. Bye. Bye.